Welcome to Technado.
Welcome back to Technado. I'm your host, Sophie. I've been out for a couple of weeks working on some other stuff, but I'm so glad to be back. I have missed this because this is like a highlight of my week. So welcome back me, I guess.
Never seen anybody welcome themselves back.
I have the skill set for it.
And what a sad rest of the week she must have.
Look, you said it, not me. I look forward to it. And Don was out last week as well, but he is back. Welcome back, Don.
Yep, I was over in the United Kingdom. I had to meet personally with King Charles as I do. You know, yeah. It was important. But I'm back in the U.S. again, which I appreciate. Back in the land of the free and ready to talk about all the tech screw ups that happened while I was out of town.
Which they were free to do.
There were a ton, yeah.
That's true. And Daniel actually was here running the show last week. How did that go for you, Dan?
Well, it was interesting, to say the least. Good times, though. Good times. Nobody ran away screaming or hair on fire. I believe we didn't get any irate hate mail, not that I heard of anyway. So
yeah, it was like Lord of the Flies when I came back. There was a pig's head on a stake outside the door, and
bring piggy.
There was a pile of hate mail when I came back, but you can't read, so I didn't think it would matter anymore.
No. So reading is dumb.
It's dumb. We are gonna do things a little bit differently this week. We do still have some articles to go over. Seems like the world is ending every week. It seems like we have articles that it's like I can't believe this is happening. Usually we will do some segments in the second half of Technado. We're gonna switch things up a little bit. These first three articles are gonna be part of a segment called Do.
Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, so,
Do!
Is that good? How would you rate that? 0 to 10.
I feel like you should have said, we're welcome to the Technado.
Lean into it.
And really.
You didn't do the Homer Simpson voice, so it doesn't count.
No.
Yeah.
So
I'm just giving you coaching advice. I didn't know I had
I
to
appreciate that. He's like a mentor.
get into character.
Mentor
You don't
that-
have the imagination to take the ball, the wonderful golden ball of goodness that I hand to you and run with it, then that's on you.
Yeah, you should be in marketing.
What's up?
That was really convincing.
Yeah, he's like the next Martin Scorsese.
Yeah.
So,
that's right.
sure. Yeah, we'll go with that.
I'm thinking Stanley Kubrick.
So anyway, like I said, we've got, this is going to be a triple header. We have 3 articles we're going to talk about in this segment. This first one comes from Tom's Hardware. It says, Botched Asus, I hope I'm saying that right, Asus update kicks routers offline worldwide. Company apologizes. So there's a hypothesis as to what might have caused this, right? It sounds like maybe like a corrupt definition file or something. So what exactly happened here?
All right. Well, we have advanced as a society to have the latest and greatest technology that is self-healing, that auto-updates, that does self-maintenance, that we don't have to worry about. You configure your home router, you turn it on, and then you forget about it, and it just runs, right? Well, there can be some challenges with that, and we got a good chance to see that thanks to Asus this week, where they pushed an update, an automatic update, out to a series of routers that they've produced that effectively caused a process in the background to run wild and run them out of disk space and memory. They don't have disk, right? They have flash memory.
Sounds like a problem.
Yeah. Fill up the flash, fill up the RAM, and then the device would go offline. And so all across the world, users of these Asus routers would wake up in the morning, having gone to bed with their network working just fine, to wake up in the morning and find the network is down and not functioning and not know why, right? And this really, to me, it highlights a challenge that we've got. That on one hand, it's nice to not have to worry about our devices anymore. Like, all right, fine. I plug this router in, this wireless access point, and that's it. I don't have to deal with it anymore. Auto updates. But then when the auto updates screw it up like this, you end up in that situation where you're like, well, do I turn off the automatic updates so they don't screw up anything and then expose myself to cybersecurity attacks? Or do I keep the updates going, knowing they could be screwed up at any minute? Any minute, my week could be ruined by this random thing that a company does. And that's exactly what happened. But for all the users that were knocked offline, don't worry. Asus said they're sorry.
You see, they should have had better spin doctors, Don. Because if I'm on their marketing team, I'm like, so here's what's up. Right? Obesity is a real problem out there. We got to get people outside for like a hot minute. We're going to push this horrible update. Going to crash stuff. It's going to get buck wild. But guess what? You got to go outside now because you can't get on the internet. Are you buying it?
At the very least, it would distract from the initial problem, and it would cause them a whole new PR problem.
Yeah.
So
I'm the bad guy here because I want people to be healthy. Is that how this works? Right?
Well, I guess to be fair to Asus, because I do actually like Asus as a company. In fact, my laptop that I'm on right now is a Asus laptop, which is still functioning as of the
On
beginning
sale
of the
today.
show.
Call
But
now.
by the end of the show, we'll see how it's doing.
Exactly.
But what they said was, we deeply apologize for any inconvenience this incident may have caused and are committed to preventing such an incident from happening again. Now,
Well, there you go, Don. What more do you want from these people?
it makes me wonder why they weren't dedicated to this in the past. In the past, we didn't care about this at all, but now we do.
We see the error.
this is a real wake-up call for them.
Yeah.
The fact that they not only apologize, but apologize deeply, I mean, that to me is good enough.
Do you not trust their word, Don? Is this where this is going?
No, I don't.
Okay, just making sure I understood. We're on the same page.
No, as a person who supported IT environments for years and years, there's nothing more frustrating than when you have an outage or downtime that's not your fault. It's like
At least it doesn't make you generate your resume.
Yeah. So I mean, just imagine you're busting your butt. You're doing everything you can to have redundant access points and multiple ISPs and all these things. You have a stable, reliable network, and then your network goes down just randomly out of the blue, and you're the one who gets the call, not Asus, right? You're the one that at 3 a.m. Well, I need to be fair here. These are not corporate routers. These are home routers,
there you
right?
go.
So it's your wife or your teenage kid that's giving you a bunch of grief because the internet's down again.
Yeah, but we are it's a very large work from home population at this point now, so this is
that's
probably
true.
affecting people a lot more than it used to. So I can see some flashes of anger hitting a person or two as they were unable to sync that work that they did so diligently put their hands to, and now they're at the doors of Asus with pitchforks and torches,
As they should be.
as they should be.
If you have to go all the way over to
Just be
Korea,
like,
right?
We're really sorry, deeply.
Deeply.
Oh, Roberts is down. Well, they set his body on fire. It's just, they're not playing.
Well, one positive to this is when Asus finally acknowledged the issue, they were able to fix it on their end, so that in theory, all you had to do was reboot your router and the problem was fixed. But it took them 3 days to do that. And so some people were down for up to 3 days, and that's a problem.
What do you feel about so obviously this comes from the fact that Asus is kind of like almost like your IT people. They're acting as if they are a part of your IT because they are the ones that are pushing updates and doing security and things of that nature, and your hands are off of that stuff. Does this mean that those kind of conveniences may not be worth as much as we had hoped that they would be, or should we have some onus on ourselves as users or whatever of needing to know about the equipment that we're putting in our homes and connecting to our things?
Well, I certainly don't have onus. I think I got vaccinated for that. Is that like
Cured that in the
lupus or
50s,
something?
didn't they?
But, I would assume, and we all know what happens when you assume.
You're right 100% of the time, every time.
That a company Asus size, if they're going to be pushing automatic updates, that they are testing those updates under production type workloads, right? That they've simulated a home environment with this router and they test the update to see what happens. In this case, it makes it pretty obvious that they weren't properly testing these, at least not in a production workload.
Well, I'm wondering, how long did it take for the corrupt update to affect the device to where it went offline? By the time from the time it was downloaded and applied, do we have a time frame before it actually affected the device to where it went offline?
They said that I don't think they've acknowledged it yet. There have been some Reddit users that have reported different versions. So
because if it was 2 or 3 days, they may have tested over a day even.
Yeah.
And went, everything seems working. Push it.
And if it was an emergency push, maybe they
critical
cut some
software
corners.
update. Right.
I could see
There's
that,
some
I guess.
scenarios where things go down. I want to give them the benefit of the doubt when I can, and then burn them when they just haphazardly put together some update and said, "Ship it."
No mercy.
That's right.
It's a great outlook to have. And it does say, like you said, if you reboot, then hopefully that fixes the problem. This is most users that should fix the problem. And if it doesn't, you have to do a factory reset, I guess. So if you or a loved one has been affected by the worldwide Asus router outage, you may be entitled to a deep apology.
Yes, tag yourself safe.
Do you suffer? Do you suffer from moderate to severe Asus outage?
Yes, I do. Really, we have. Can we like sepia tone?
For just the cost of a cup of coffee a day.
Cue Sarah McLaughlin.
Well, yeah, I guess if you do, I personally don't use an Asus router, but if you do, hopefully you didn't have this problem, and if you did, there's a fix for you. Probably
There's a
You'll be
support
fine.
group in your area.
They are well reviewed. Like they have a very strong signal. They do good wall penetration, so they're respectable.
And we don't want to have no path to forgiveness, right?
Yeah.
Right. We want to say, okay, everybody makes mistakes. No,
Nope,
that's a
canceled.
1,000. You are done. oh yes, I love watching you just crumble into shambles.
And they weren't the only company this week that was facing some issues. Like I said, we've got 3 of these, so that's definitely not all. This next article comes from Ars Technica. SanDisks Extreme SSDs keep abruptly failing. Firmware fix for only some promised. So it sounds like there's been issues with the 2 terabyte and 4 terabyte models. They've just been suddenly like wiping data or becoming unreadable. But they only address the issues with the 4 terabyte model.
You remember the web series Ask a Ninja?
Yes.
Do you remember that?
Yep.
Yeah, you have no idea, right? It was
What gave it away?
This was back when the internet was fun.
Yeah.
And Ask a Ninja was fun. And people would write him questions and ask a ninja, and he would answer these questions as a ninja, and they were just very hysterical answers. And one was, can I become a ninja or something like that? And his answer was, absolutely, positively, maybe. And it's like what we're seeing here from SanDisk. Can you fix my drive? Absolutely, positively, maybe.
Yeah.
If it meets certain criteria.
But they didn't even acknowledge. It's not even like they said, well, if it's a 4 terabyte model, yeah, here's a fix for it. If it's the 2 terabyte model, you're out of luck. They didn't even acknowledge that there were issues with the 2 terabyte, it sounds like.
Yeah, this is bizarre. SanDisk, very, very well-known company.
Another respected company.
They are a respected company. If you've bought SD cards or any kind of flash memory, SanDisk is a major player in that space. And SanDisk is owned by, who owns them? Is it
no idea.
Western Digital?
I couldn't begin to tell you.
I can't remember.
I thought SanDisk owned them.
Yeah, it might be the other way around. Either way, they've been around. They've definitely got a
Western
name in the
Digital
industry. Western Digital owns
you're
them. Okay.
correct.
Western Digital, who they've got their own challenges with their like cloud service that got hit by ransomware that's been down for weeks and weeks and weeks. Actually, it's months now.
Yeah.
It's not even measured in weeks anymore. Well, with SanDisk, they make these devices called Extreme SSDs, and if you haven't seen them, they are
Fairly small.
M2 sized SSDs, I think like 2280s, kind of the smaller circuit board sized SSDs, not the ones that are sized like a 3.5-inch hard drive. These are very small.
Yeah.
Like a thin deck of cards, I guess, would be a good way to describe them. But
not as wide, right?
No, yeah, I guess
Yeah,
it's smaller than that.
they're almost like a Zippo lighter. That's like a long Zippo lighter size.
Yeah. So really small form factor, and they come in, various sizes, 2 terabyte and 4 terabytes, what they're selling now. Obviously, they were smaller ones before, but pretty fast for external storage because they're SSD based. You can plug them in USB 3 or they have USB-C ones. So they're snazzy little devices. Very popular for backups, right? You can hook one up, do a backup, unplug it. Now you got your offline backup, which everybody knows we need. But what's going on is people are finding that occasionally when they safely disconnect the device following proper procedures and then reconnect it, the file system is corrupted, right? Not like 1 or 2 files, not like they lost a few rights. Yeah, whole thing is corrupted. And sometimes they've been able to use third-party software to go in and repair the file system and recover it, but many times they can't. Everything on the disk is ruined.
That's crazy, right? Because normally, like, if something gets overwritten or deleted, quote unquote, right, it's still recoverable a lot of times because it doesn't actually overwrite the data, it just marks it as writable, right? It marks those sectors as writable. So the fact that some rando ejection of your drive from your device, and it goes, I am going to wipe this clean. It will be clean, and you will have a new drive waiting for you. Your data was bad. I didn't like it. Now, enjoy.
Yeah, and even like in the really catastrophic stuff, back in the old days when you'd lose like your FAT32 table or whatever, you could just rewrite a blank table and all the files are still there. You just lost like the first letter of the file name and that was it. But all the data was there. Forensics, data forensics does that.
File carving.
Yeah. But in this case, the way the SSDs are structured, once they get corrupted, that's it. Like
That's
the
just
data
gone.
is just destroyed. And with a lot of us doing BitLocker or Lux or File Vault where you're encrypting things, even a little bit of corruption ruins the whole disk. So a real big challenge. The SanDisk folks initially didn't acknowledge the problem. They assumed it was something the user did, but more and more reports started coming in.
Step one, blame the user.
Yeah, that's a fact.
It's kind of how it works.
Have you rebooted your computer?
Yeah. Have you stopped being you?
But like Sophie pointed out, they acknowledge the issue on the 4 terabyte ones and have pushed out a firmware update to allegedly fix this. They have not acknowledged the 2 terabyte one. And, for me, it highlights a bigger problem that I think I've mentioned on the show a few times, is that we do software updates on our systems all the time, but people don't think about firmware updates on their hard drives, firmware updates on their sound card or video card. Like, this is not something that people normally think about. And here's an example of where if you have one of these disks, you won't know there's a problem until all of a sudden your data's gone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It looks like they didn't really, and maybe it's just that nobody knows yet, but there was, like you said, no acknowledgement of whether the firmware fix is going to affect the 2 terabyte models, but they also didn't really address what the issue was in the first place or what was causing it. And they didn't address like exactly when the firmware fix was going to happen. There was no like, hey, give us a few days, or like, it's just like, yeah, this will happen eventually. Just be patient.
It's the Jedi mind trick. They're doing a hand wave.
Yeah.
We have fixed the problem.
Yeah.
This is not the corruption you're looking for.
No. Honestly, you didn't even like that drive anyway. Just move on.
Yeah.
Quit yelling at me, please.
You've already paid us for the disc. What more do you want?
Listen, I'll send you an inferior disc instead. How's that sound?
Yeah, right now, a lot of it looks like is just like on Reddit, people just kind of hypothesizing what the issue might be or why SanDisk hasn't really been more forthcoming with stuff.
You would
about
think that, like, so, users can jack their stuff up pretty good. I mean, never underestimate the ability of a user to mess things up. So there is that. So I get their idea of like, well, let's make sure that the corruption was done due to our problem. And I mean, honestly, I think this is just, could they respond better? Maybe there's an argument that can be made in that case. But I have to put procedure in place for returns to be done, for refunds or swapping of things. I can't just be like, yo, dog, my drive died. It's a 2 terabyte one. You know how those sucked. So give me another one. And I'm like, oh, yeah, here you go. Otherwise you got people out there punching their grandma and taking 2 terabyte drives that they got sitting on the thing going, trade me, give me a refund, give me a refund. There has to be something in place that verifies that it did actually get corrupted and it was due to the malfunction. And now we can issue you blank, blank, blank.
This is one of the reasons on servers, I'm going to jump away from consumer stuff here, but on servers, I used to always like buying HP servers as opposed to Dell. And one of the reasons was storage failures. That on a Dell, it wasn't uncommon for you to have, like, let's say you had a RAID array with 12 drives in it, right? And one drive fails. So you come in and there's the orange light. And so you pop out the drive and you pop it back in, and now it's a green light. And off it goes. And you're like, well, okay, now it's showing a green light. It's showing healthy, but I know something was wrong.
Yeah, it's just not wrong now.
And if you called up Dell, they would say, no, you got to wait for it to fail. And that was it. And so you knew it was a ticking time bomb, and you just had to suck it up. And with HP, if you got an orange light like that and you popped the drive out and popped it back in and it went green, you could still call them and they would send you a new drive.
That was still a failure in there.
Yeah, they didn't mess around. Like if you had a smart failure, like a smart warning, or if you had an orange light at any point, they'd send you a new drive.
That's a great way to keep a loyal customer.
Yeah.
Honestly, because my data going bye-bye,
it's a big deal.
Is usually an unacceptable risk, right? I do not want that to go. And I would assume that's probably the biggest complaint. It's like, yeah, drives fail. I understand that. But when I got something that's relatively new that is supposed to be from a trusted vendor and it craps the bed on me like this, not only craps the bed, but now it's rolling around in it like it's a 2-year-old child who's just having a great time. It's like, no. I the data that I have on there, I put on there because I wanted to keep it.
I don't know.
My analogies kind of go off.
Yeah,
I don't know what I was expecting. It wasn't that.
I actually kind of toned it back, I'll be honest with you.
I can sense there's like a real story behind this.
Like, what do you...
This comes from personal experience. This is not like an idiomatic phrase.
Son, no.
Jeez.
In different words, it looks like there was somebody that from Ars Technica that basically said what you said, but without what
The
you
flowery language.
said. They said, yeah, good luck to SanDisk because put me off buying anything with their name on it for life.
Right.
Like they've basically written off SanDisk now.
Now, and you know that may make sense. I mean, I think all the storage vendors have screwed up like this at some point or another. So I don't know that it makes sense to just write off SanDisk. But
Right. I want to see, like, I always want to give people a path of forgiveness. I want to see how they handle this. If they come back and they're like, we took that time because we wanted to be sure that we had a good fix, a good strategy to re-earn your trust. That's acceptable, right? And then they give me a product and they try to make it right. That's acceptable. Okay. Strike one. That's cool. We all, no one bats 1,000, right? So let's move on. But if this was my third strike with SanDisk at this point, I'd probably be telling them to go pound sand.
Go roll around in a diaper.
Yeah,
whatever that you
by
just
the-
said.
yeah.
Here's a bed and a bowl of chili.
So the interesting thing that I saw in the article, something I hadn't seen in a long time, was that the very last thing that the Ars Technica author put in there was that it might be a good time to remind your users about the 3-2-1 backup rule. Do you guys know the 3-2-1 backup rule?
I do know the 3-2-1 backup rule. Like as far as like you have, I can't recite it right now though.
I
It's
know
about
it,
it's
but
about
why
backing
don't
out.
you
Yeah.
tell me what it is so that I know that you know?
Yeah.
There you go. So I hadn't heard this one in a long time. I hadn't even thought about the 3-2-1 rule in a long time. But the basic tenet of it is that you should have 3 copies of your data. You should have your production, and then you should have 2 backups.
Right.
And those 2 backups should be on 2 different media types, and one of those should be off-site. So 3 copies, 2 different media types, 1 off-site. That's the 3-2-1 rule.
Gotcha.
I never liked that rule. I always thought that rule was dumb.
Now he's a fan.
I felt like you should have your production and a local backup and an offsite backup. I never worried about diversifying the media type. Like that's a level of paranoia that goes, I think, too far. I know it's me saying that.
Bridge too far for Don.
Yeah, you cross a line
How
eventually.
dare you try to tell me to stick this on DVDs?
If it's
Remember
a bridge too far for you guys, then it must really be too far.
What was that backup? That was it the jukebox, the Microsoft jukebox, and it had like DVDs in it. You put DVD writable as a robot.
Yeah. I remember that.
You remember that thing?
Yeah, they were like worm drives where you
Yeah.
write once and
Yeah.
that was ancient.
It was
technology.
like this box about that big, about that wide, and there were like these
double-sided DVDs.
right? And they looked like they were in like a plastic tray.
Mhm.
You just fill this thing up, and it would, and that goes in the writer. And now can we get down here, put it away, and then grab the next one? Yeah, it was kind of.
This is what was it called?
It's called the jukebox, I believe. Jukebox.
Yeah, it was
Interesting.
made by a company. It was Cybernetics or somebody like that made it. There have been all sorts of crazy backup solutions over the years.
We're gonna
between-
make everybody use that from now on.
I've worked with tape robots that were so large you could walk inside of them.
Whoa.
Where you'd have like 1,000 tapes stacked up
That's a
around
lot
you
of
in a cylinder,
tapes.
and the robot arm would spin around and grab them and move them. I did some work for a company in Jacksonville that had 2 of them because
Whoa.
you
They
know
had
one might
some
fail.
data.
It was I don't know if I want to name the company
Yeah.
because it was a public company. It was a whatever.
narrowed it down.
What did
yeah.
they do?
$dollars
for
at
that?
work.
Oh, okay. So it's
That's
government.
what it was. Yeah.
Government. Yeah.
But yeah, so there's different solutions that are out there. I always thought 3-2-1 was a little aggressive.
Yeah.
And admittedly, in this case, the SanDisk storage is again consumer level storage.
True.
So
Yeah, that's fair, I guess. To be honest with you, when you said extreme SSDs, I know what an SSD is, okay? But you said extreme SSDs, and I'm thinking like SSD with a mohawk right in his head.
Drinks a lot of
He's got a
Mountain
can of
Dew.
Monster in his
Yeah.
hand. Yeah. That was the image that came into my head, and then it stayed there.
So
for
you've
the rest
never
of the
seen Harold and
conversation.
Kumar, and I'm thinking extreme.
Yeah.
No, I haven't. There's every week there's like a new 7 movies that get added to the list, and it just keeps piling up. I need to
Oh,
start
we'll get you
watching
there.
them.
We'll get
today
you
it's
there.
been Die Hard, all the Die Hards and all the Harold and Kumars.
Yeah.
I think is
And and I don't know,
Sophie
Death Wish,
somewhere.
maybe.
Yeah.
Oh, Death Wish.
We did
Yeah.
mention Death Wish.
yeah.
I'm a little-
Five
There's 5 of them.
movies. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm a little afraid to watch that one. But anyway, so getting back
If
to
you've
the
never seen the In Living Color sketch, Make a Death Wish. Instead of Make a Wish Foundation, Charles Bronson shows up. He's like, "What do you want to do, kid?" He's like, "I want to ride this, crazy roller coaster." He's like, "He's too small." He's like, "He says it's too small. I can't ride it." can you get me on here? He was like, I'd like to see him try and stop you. He pulls out a gun.
There's a new thing for me to fear every day.
Every day.
So there's also some scary stuff still going on here in the world of tech.
You don't.
It's a horrible segue, but I don't know how to redirect from Death Wish to this. So to round out the 3 articles we've got for this segment, this one comes from Bleeping Computer. HP rushes to fix bricked printers after faulty firmware update. So more firmware issues. Once again,
Seems to be the real issue this week, huh?
Firmware update released earlier this month has been bricking some HP printers, and it sounds like HP is now addressing this. I don't know how long it's been since the issue first popped up.
They probably programmed this on purpose so that people had like an actual reason why the printer wasn't printing. Why does this son of a thing never work?
PC load letter.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Where's that Louisville?
So I wonder, because like the last story we talked about and the one before that, there was always a little bit of time between this issue cropping up and then finally they release a statement, which I know it takes time to address this stuff. So I wonder how long it took HP to say something, because it looks like this update came out earlier this month.
So this one, it's been up for a few weeks, and it seems to be randomly affecting customers. Now, if you're not familiar with what's going on here, HP over the last few years has been pushing their online service pretty heavy. In fact, they even sell some printers where unless you sign up for their monthly subscription service, you cannot print. So
you get a firmware problem.
Yeah. So you're effectively renting your printer from HP, and you have to buy your ink from them, and it's really a sleazy business that they're in.
They're right there next to, check cashing.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's a reason why HP Enterprise had to split off as a separate company, because the consumer faith in the brand of HP has just been going downhill.
And their predatory lending practices.
Yeah. Yeah. You get the printer, it'll do payroll loans, it'll do payday advance.
I think I'm glad we're laughing because we might be like pushing up on libels.
There does come a limit, doesn't there?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. You can donate plasma through it.
Man's got to do what a man's got to do, right?
It accepts like 3 different bodily fluids.
We're going to have to make a statement like at the end of the episode so that we're not liable for...
Nah, screw it. We're all in on this one.
Yeah, that's right. Pushing chips in the middle.
So HP, they did something, and it's causing their printers to effectively blue screen, kind of like the blue screen of death on a Windows machine. The difference here is that when the little LCD screen on the printer goes blue, it displays an error code, and if you turn the printer off and turn it back on, guess what? Error code's still there. This is a true and royal bricking. Once your printer is affected by this, HP does not have a fix for you. You literally have to send the printer back, or they have to send you a replacement, and that's it. Like, this is pretty much as bad as it gets for remote.
How much trouble would they get into is if they made, instead of getting a little blue screen, it just started printing a person with their middle finger up.
I mean, they've come close to doing that, right? The message is there.
I mean, I get it. They're saying, this is not printing my print job anyway.
So yeah, this is about as bad as it gets, and it really. I try and tell people that they're being too paranoid sometimes, right? But there are people who absolutely refuse to use remote managed services like this, and it's situations like what we're seeing this week that kind of give them a good basis for their argument of I'm not going to allow these devices to connect to the internet. In fact, if you took your HP printer and blocked it from connecting to the internet, you'd be better off than all the people who didn't do that, because your printer wouldn't be blue screened like this one.
Billy Bob's got his tinfoil hat on right now going, I told you the government was going to do something.
Now, as I was going through picking articles for this week, there were tons of other things going on in the world, but these 3 jumped out at me and an idea popped in my head, so I want to put this before you guys.
This ought to be fun.
Somewhere in this world, there is somebody who woke up and their internet was down. And
oh my goodness!
Damn it, my internet is down. And then
I know where you're going with this.
Their printer was blue screen.
Yeah.
And then their backup failed. And they looked and their SanDisk was corrupted. Somebody owns all 3 of these devices and got royally effed this week.
That has absolutely occurred. Yes.
Somewhere, somebody's having the worst week ever.
Contact us. We want to interview you.
They're currently in their panic room.
Yes. We want to know what you were going through, what thoughts ran through your head when that happened. So if you are that person or you know that person, reach out to Don at ACI Learning.
Yeah, come to our website at technado.com.
Yeah,
submit
leave
reviewer mail.
exactly. We need that story.
Yeah, somebody has gotten walloped by like more than one of these at the same time.
Hell, just say that it happened. I mean, there's no way we could tell.
Make it up. Anything's
Right.
possible. When
We
you
don't
lie.
really care to like verify. But if you're really good at telling that story and spinning that yarn, come on with it. Come on with it.
That was it. I mean, so I was seeing each of these articles over a series of days,
Yeah.
and I was thinking, man, it would be bad for any one of these to happen to you, like super annoying, because it's not
Yeah.
your fault. Like you can be doing everything perfectly according to best practices, and any one of these three situations could have hit you. But imagine owning more than one of these devices and getting walloped all at once. Just what a nightmare.
Great way to become a Luddite.
All of a sudden, that Amish thing
That's
is
right.
looking like a good alternative.
Yeah.
It's interesting how they kind of, as we went through them, they seemed like they went up a little bit in severity. Like the first one, it's at least there's like a fix for it, right? It says now these routers should be fully operational as far as the Asus stuff goes. You do a manual reboot, you should be okay. With the SanDisk stuff, it's like, well, there's a firmware update maybe coming eventually.
50-50
and
shot.
It might
You
help
lose
you,
your data.
Yeah.
but it might not, depending on what you have. And we don't have any more information for you. But there's maybe some hope. And then with the printers, it's like, yeah, we don't have a fix for you. Good luck. It's not even good luck. Just
Yeah.
sucks for you. Like,
Yeah.
there's no fix.
Melt it down for the gold and platinum.
Yeah, yeah. HP and Brother, the two biggest printer manufacturers, they have done so much to erode customer goodwill over the last 5 years. It's amazing. Like I can't.
What a marketing plan.
Yeah, I can't think of a way. I mean, maybe if they started funding an oppressive government or something, like that's the only way they could do worse.
Oh, I can think of things. I don't think you'll let me say them, but
Well, yeah. Standards and practices.
dang it.
Well, this is
Don keeps me on a short leash.
it's always encouraging to look at what's going on in tech and just see things like this where, like you said, you have no control over it. You could be doing everything right and you can still get screwed by one of these things happening. And it sounds like these were not the only things. I'm sure there were other articles
Screw you too,
that we didn't
technology.
touch on. Yeah.
There were other ones, absolutely. Yep.
So hope you enjoyed that triple header dose segment. I don't know if we'll be doing that again, but it was
The hat
certainly was
trick.
fun to kind of go through.
I hope not. I hope we don't do that again.
don't-
Yeah.
Don didn't enjoy it as much as I did. Okay, we'll do a survey before we come back.
Some people just like to watch the world burn.
But Mike, okay.
Yeah, it's Mike. Okay.
Is Mike okay? That is going to wrap the tech news segment of our show. But don't go away. We are going to take a quick break. We'll be back in just a second with security news and hopefully a better Michael Caine impression. So
Yeah.
stay tuned for more.
Because
tech
yours was bad.
Look. Okay, stay tuned for more Technado. Tired of trying to schedule your team's time around in-person learning? Isn't it a bummer to spend thousands of dollars on travel for professional development? What if we said you can save money and time and still provide your team with the best training possible? The answer to your woes is live online training from ACI Learning. With live online training, we provide our top in-person courses in private, online, instructor-led formats. You get to provide professional development in a manner that fits today's expectations. Entertaining, convenient, and effective. Our exam-aligned courses inspire the full potential of your team. Visit virtual instructor-led training at ACI Learning for more info. Welcome back for more Technado. We're going to get more into some security news in this half of the show. We had a lovely spirited discussion about DC Comics and Michael Caine in the
We're lobbying. The real important issue was that we're lobbying for the Lobo movie to be made.
Yeah.
So if any of you out there have the power, make it happen. I don't know if there's a petition we need to sign or a change.org.
It's a shame y'all couldn't.
Yeah.
I think it's not too late. They could do the Lobo Paramilitary Christmas special and have it in time for holiday season 2023.
We got to make this happen, ladies and gentlemen. Come on now.
Lobo Paramilitary Christmas Special.
It's very funny. It's Lobo versus Santa Claus.
I don't think I've ever heard those words in that order.
Turns out Santa can hold his own.
Dude, he's a magical character. I mean, come on.
So is Lobo.
Right? Which is what makes it awesome.
I bet this is such a fun conversation if you know any of those words.
It's actually, what makes it more fun is the fact that you don't.
Exactly. So hopefully the articles we're going to talk about are not as hard for me to follow as this conversation. We've got some. We talked a little bit about, like, in the first half of this show, some dull moments where, like, it just seemed like there was no hope. This first article I'm hoping is not what I think it is. Because this first article says, it's from HelpNet Security. It says, KeePass Flaw allows retrieval of master passwords. So It just seems like password manager issues are contagious the past couple of months. How worried should KeePass users actually be about this?
You know, I'm kind of on the fence on this one. So let me give the overview and we'll get Daniel's feedback here in a second. If you're not familiar with KeePass, they are a free password manager, which is nice. Many people like them because you can run it entirely offline. Like you can manage your own vault and not have to rely on any third-party service to store your data. So that makes it inherently more secure than some of the other ones. Although you could argue that if you manage the whole thing, you could screw it up easier, but it's hard to look at LastPass and think that's a valid argument. So the thing here is a security researcher found a flaw in KeePass, where if they monitored the RAM of a system, even after KeePass had been closed, that they could potentially retrieve the master key or the master password to unlock a KeePass vault. Now, that sounds bad. If an attacker can get a hold of your master password, that's a problem. At the same time, the attacker would need to be able to have read access to the RAM on your system, which is usually an indicator that things have already gone way beyond your control and the damage is already done. So from that perspective, I don't view this as a high-risk thing. I actually think it's pretty minor. But this is usually one that's a better question for Daniel, because am I right in thinking that like if an attacker has access to what's in my RAM, it would be trivial for them to spin up a keylogger and just capture me typing my master password anyway, wouldn't it?
Yeah. If they've already got like access to your system and they don't really need to necessarily go to RAM, I mean, you're probably doing other things anyway. Most likely you're working with a Windows operating system, but it could be Linux. And therefore a keylogger would do this a whole lot easier. Dumping LSAS is another way to go around getting passwords. Those are always fun. This does give you access to, this is kind of where it kind of splits off. So if I've got a password, you're probably reusing that password somewhere else. It's very common practice. So not only do I have a password to one thing, but I've probably got a password to a bunch of things. But then we start thinking about what KeePass is and what it's used for. It gives me access to all my passwords. So that would be the only like amplification of the attack in my mind, like right off out of Jump Street, is that, okay, I probably don't use that password for everything, but now that I have the password I need to open the vaults, I now have the password to everything. So that's why it would be important. But if you've already been hosed, well, you've already been hosed. That's
can't get much worse.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Is it a little bit more of a spoof, an oomph? If you've been doing good OPSEC where nothing has the same password, then yeah, they've got a little bit extra because now they can just open your KeePass and see what all your other passwords are and dump those down as well. So that's where it kind of can jump up and, like I said, amplify a little bit. But if you've already got malware, it's a bad day at the beach.
Now, this one I did think was really interesting in the way that it worked. Now, the proof of concept is only for Windows. You mentioned Linux.
Yeah.
And they said that this may work on Linux and Mac, but the proof of concept so far is only for Windows. And it was because of the way that .NET handles some variables. Now, when I first heard about this, I thought, what kind of password manager would store your master password in RAM? That's madness.
All of them.
Right? Like, it just shouldn't happen. So the ability for somebody to go and retrieve it from RAM should be impossible. That master password should really just be used to be able to generate the private key to unlock and decrypt the vault to access things. So, to actually have that master password stored in RAM seems like an egregious flaw. Well, in this case, KeePass doesn't store it in RAM. So how does it work? Well, when you type in your master password into the password field, each time you type a letter, instead of displaying the letter on screen or number or character, whatever, you don't want somebody shoulder surfing and looking at your password while you type it in. So with each character, it just displays a circle, right? I think LastPass shows an asterisk or whatever for each letter. So as you type it in, it's showing little circles. Well, it will display whatever your most recent character is. So if I'm on my third character, I would see two circles, and when I type B or whatever my third character is, I would see the letter B for a moment before it turns into a circle. And then you keep typing. So visually, you can tell if you type the right character, but somebody shoulder surfing wouldn't be able to see that whole password. So that's good. Well, apparently it's the rendering of those circles that's the actual flaw here. And so 2 circles and a B would go into RAM. And then 3 circles and a A would go into RAM. And then 4 circles and an N would, show up in whatever. I don't know what word I'm starting to spell here, but BAN is what I got so far. I got to be careful.
Don is actually giving out his real password.
No, not my password.
Continue, Don.
But yeah, no, I'm wondering. But either way, it was interesting to see where this flaw came from, because the act of trying to prevent shoulder surfing is what's actually left them vulnerable to this attack. And
That's what I call ironic.
Yeah, was that they could monitor this and basically in RAM get your entire master password except for the very first character. But from a brute force perspective, like now you just have to brute force one character, which you can do practically instantly today.
Yeah, I mean, if it was like 2,000 different characters that you had to try, like you said, basically instantaneous.
Yep. So a fairly big flaw.
Now this was a problem due to .NET, right? The way .NET works, if I'm not mistaken.
It is on Windows, and this is where
Windows.
they say this may work on Mac and Linux.
Yeah.
Which I find odd because I don't think KeePass depends on .NET.
I would highly doubt it.
Yeah. So I don't know. I'd have to see a proof of concept for those, but they are working on a fix for it. They're going to push that out if they haven't already. It's supposed to be in version 2.54 when that comes out.
Language so that they can hedge their bets. Say some weirdo comes out and says, "I did it in Linux."
I don't think this is something to worry about. Like I don't use KeePass, but if I did, I wouldn't be worried about this.
Well, I mean the access you need to pull this off, right? So you're probably getting ready to get into what it takes to actually make this work.
To read protected memory.
Right.
Yeah.
So you need a memory dump, you need a hibernation file, you need a page swap file, right? This is not stuff that's just like laying around, everybody has access to these things. Like you said before, you've already got access into this thing if you have access to those things.
Yep.
Like deep access. So you probably want to look at how that happened first before. Now, if someone's got physical access to it, well, there you go, and you didn't have it encrypted, you've got some operational security issues that you need to worry about. So there is that. But getting back to like, how do we fix this, or what do we do if we're worrying about this? Well, if those are the things that you need, change those things.
Yeah. I think, if somebody has physical access to your machine,
Yeah.
they could use one of those keyboard cables that's a keylogger that you can't detect because it's in hardware.
Yeah.
And they'll get your master password sooner or later that way.
Oh, the one I got's got a built-in access point.
Oh,
And it looks like a cable.
convenient.
It looks like a cable, has a built-in access point. I just got to get close enough, connect to it with my phone, and then it shows me the data dump of the key logs, the keystrokes that it logged.
He'd show it to you, but it's hooked up to my computer right now.
Yeah. It's kind of busy. It's doing doing its hair.
I don't know. I guess the risk here is a little greater in that somebody could be remotely in your machine and do this, but I just don't think this is a high enough risk.
Do you think this article and even maybe this disclosure, not the disclosure isn't good, right? It's obvious it's got a CVE to it and everything. It's a legit thing.
Yeah.
That you should worry about if you are using KeePass. Good news is that mitigations are not difficult to do. But do you think that this is just basically like clickbait security kind of stuff? Like, hey, password managers are a real problem. Look what happened at LastPass. And that was such a big thing.
Yeah.
Now it's like everybody's focusing in on password managers and looking for flaws because it gets clicks. It gets people's eyes on it.
Have you ever heard publish or perish?
Mm-mm.
So in academia,
Mhm.
right, in the world of science, scientists and PhDs and all that stuff, if you want to make it in the university system as a professor and get tenure and all that, you have to be published in papers. And if you're not regularly published, your career won't move forward, right?
Okay.
And so they are incentivized to publish things, and that's why we see these scientific papers that come out that are
Stupid.
dubious,
Yeah.
I think is the word you're supposed to use, the stupid, basically. Yeah. Because they need to keep publishing papers. It's not that they made some real discovery.
They're
It's
just feeding the machine.
right. And I think if you want to make it big in the cybersecurity world right now, you want to get a CVE under your belt.
You do.
And so it doesn't matter how unlikely it is somebody could take advantage of it, but if you get a CVE, it's something you put on your resume. Now, I didn't look up the severity on this one.
Did it say?
So I just tried to pull it up on the NIST website, and It's got the base score is NA right now, so they haven't assigned a
You
score
haven't even
to
calculated
it yet,
the score yet.
which is odd. Well, I mean, I guess it did just come out, so maybe they haven't time to assign a score.
That does seem odd, though.
It's just interesting to me that how you were talking about how it stores those like leftover strings. It is so. This is just a KeePass issue though, because I feel like all password managers they have it where it pops up and it's the circles, right? When you were describing it, I'm like, oh, so basically anytime you type in a password ever, it seems like most places do that. But storing the string like that doesn't happen.
Well, this is a .NET library,
Right.
so
This is .NET doing this, not KeePass.
Gotcha.
Since they are using .NET to build KeePass.
Okay, I understand. Gotcha.
And so any software that uses that .NET library would be vulnerable to this too. And I'd be surprised if there weren't hundreds of other programs that do the same.
Oh, yeah.
So it's not just KeePass is what we're focusing on here.
Right.
Because
The problem is that because it's doing it for KeePass, right, now if I can retrieve that information, I have keys to something.
Okay. Yeah, it is. I guess that's a little unnerving. Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm just desensitized because we talk about like
just
password
expect it to
manager
be that
issues
way now.
every week. Yeah.
If you're not a KeePass user, you don't care. If you are a KeePass user, I wouldn't lose any sleep over this one. It's just not. It's not that big a deal.
Change your password, your master password, right? You can remove those memory dumps and hibernation files. You just delete them. They'll recreate new ones and you're good.
Yeah.
Right? So restart your computer. You're good to go. Apply the fix when it's available. I think it is for some of them, right?
It's supposed to be
working
out
on
soon if it's not out already. Actually, by the time this podcast hits your ears, it's likely released.
Yeah.
Okay. That's good to know. You guys are breezy about it, so I'm breezy about it too because you definitely know more about this than I do.
Turn your computers off. Go outside. Play with your kids.
Your router's not working anyway. What is
Yeah. And all the data you had on your SanDisk got wiped.
That's
so.
right. And you can't even print your resume.
Yeah.
Oh, I forgot to mention that last segment. Like we used to always say, like no failure in your network is a true problem unless the printer is out, because then you can't print your resume.
Yeah.
Like as long as you can still print your resume, you're fine.
I got double host because you can't even email it if you get your router down.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. This is an interesting episode. I'm enjoying the articles that we've got here.
The end is nigh.
And we haven't even.
It's all one big Charlie Foxtrot this week, isn't it? Like everything here is just getting worse and worse.
Yeah.
And we've got one next that has to do with the dark web. We haven't even gotten there yet.
Oh.
So
let's do it
to see what this is all about. This one comes from Tom's Hardware. It says, "Dark web ChatGPT unleashed. Meet DarkBERT," which is just such a funny name, I think. And initially, I saw dark web.
I'm thinking of like an evil Bert and Ernie.
Oh, I was thinking like DogBERT from the Dilbert.
Oh,
strip.
gotcha. Yeah.
Oh.
DarkBERT.
Yeah. Dark
Okay. Yeah.
Now I don't know
I'm
which one's
thinking
right.
Dark Bert.
Those are-
He's like, "Hey, Ernie.
What happened to my
You
paper
left-
clips,
you
Ernie?
put one swig of milk back in the refrigerator again."
Initially, I saw dark web, and I thought it was something nefarious, right? But it looks like this is something law enforcement or security researchers could use to basically help them better understand like what's going on, I guess, in the dark web. So it's not like this is not a nefarious tool, right?
So it's hard to say. Like these things are such a gray area. You can't just label it as this is a nefarious tool or not. Like it's like a hammer, right? A hammer. These are my stupid analogies. A hammer.
Well, no, go with it.
You could use a hammer to build a house, right? A hammer in nails into wood to build a
Use
house.
it to beat
whatever.
Ernie when he puts one swig of milk back in the
Or
fridge.
you could use it to shatter the window at a bank and go get rich,
It's
right?
true.
So-
It's true. I like how she took it too.
murder.
Yeah.
Straight to murder.
Yeah.
So this one, let's back up and go to a different question. Sophie, have you ever been on the dark web?
No. Do I look like I've been on the dark web? No.
Well, you've worked here long enough. Seems like you.
I am afraid.
Watch
no.
me get on the dark web.
I've watched you do it, but that's because I can sit comfortably in the passenger seat and not risk doing anything wrong. So no, I have not directly.
Daniel, you did the webinars with me, right? The dark web 1, 2, and 3.
I don't know. No,
Was it
I
you?
did not do those with
Maybe
you.
it was Wes.
Yeah, it wasn't me.
Yeah, I had like actual talent with me that time.
Yeah.
So I did a series
Hey.
of webinars that showed what the dark web was and how to get on the dark web and how to create a hosted service in the dark web. Like, just to show people what it was.
It's
Like,
the
how
internet.
How it worked. Yeah, and because people have a fear of the dark web and you shouldn't be afraid of it. Like, it's just technology.
Correct me if I'm wrong. That's what we used to just call the internet.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, but I mean, it's just something that's not in the search engines. This is really all it is. So
Well, that's not true, right?
There's a
Because
difference between
there's
deep web and
deep
dark
web and dark web, right?
Yeah.
So there's deep web, which would be just stuff that's not really surface stuff, and there's dark web, which is
Yeah.
Murder for hire, drugs for sale, that kind of stuff.
So I showed how to bring up a service in the Tor, in the actual Onion network where it was completely obfuscated from the internet.
Then Don sold a bunch of illegal substances.
Well, so in getting set up for that webinar, I had to.
He stole some credit cards.
Well, I didn't, not this time. I had a debate over, do I show it live? Do I actually bring this service up during the show? Or do I film the demonstrations ahead of time? And ultimately, I had to film the demonstrations ahead of time. And the main reason was, and this is going to sound funny, but I couldn't bring up a dark web website with a reasonable degree of certainty that there wouldn't be a penis on the page.
That's true.
So
It's a true story.
I think, we don't appreciate the content filtering that happens on all the websites on the normal internet. So, God, where am I going with this? So what DarkBERT does, or DarkBERT,
Removes all the penis pics.
well, it gives you a safer way to explore what's on the dark web. You can interact with it to get an idea of what's out there without all the penis pics, right?
I'm liking DarkBERT more and more every day.
Tally for how many times you say that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've already said it more times than I ever thought I would on this
Like
podcast.
you said, we pushed our chips all the way in on this episode.
Yeah. So, it's probably, if you're one of those people that's afraid to go on the dark web, that's probably for the better, right? Because there's really nothing but trouble that's on there. If you want to buy drugs or human trafficking or stolen goods, that's really what goes on
Back
there.
alley colonoscopies.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all there.
Colonoscopy parts. Gotta love them.
It's a burgeoning industry. So
Let's see Jingle Bells done. Colonoscopy parts. Rat,
a
rat,
whole-
rat.
now we know Daniel's backup plan in case this
that's
whole
it.
IT thing.
That's- I got YouTube videos just waiting to be released.
His backup plan or his backed up plan?
Listen,
See
if
what
you're
you did
over
there.
40, ladies and gentlemen, just go get it done. Go get it done.
But yeah, so if you want to stay off the dark web, but at the same time you want to benefit from the knowledge you could gain, are my credentials compromised on the dark web, or what are the things that we could buy that are out there? You could go into DarkBERT and interact with it to find out on your behalf. So that's the point of this thing. It's an interesting usage of AI, ML, ChatGPT, which is all the buzzwords right now.
Yeah.
I thought this was an interesting use.
I agree.
I don't disagree. I'm still not going to go on the dark web. But
No.
I mean, for somebody that, like you said, is wary about crossing that line,
You got a link for this thing, Don?
that's not
I'm saying I want to look up some videos, but
I
demonstrate it live.
I think they've got it held behind an invite wall right now, but it will be out soon.
cool.
Oh, that's right.
That-
I remember. So that right now they've published a paper on it where you can apply to gain access, but it's a PDF. I'm not going to open a PDF from some.
Oh, I did. I straight up opened it.
Did you?
Dude, it took 2 minutes to open that PDF.
Well, yeah, because it was
That was,
installing
cool.
the rootkit on your machine.
Malware. Hell yeah. Good thing I don't actually do anything on this computer
It literally doesn't do
Yeah.
anything.
at all.
And I guess it remains to be seen because this was just I think a week ago that they first published this, and so it's relatively new. And these they learn over time, right?
Yeah.
So only time will tell, I guess, how effective this tool is or how useful it is.
Yep.
But fun name at least.
Yeah.
It's I feel like DarkBERT. Nothing against ChatGPT. I like saying DarkBERT better. That's more fun, I think.
Yeah.
But nothing against ChatGPT. Okay, cool. So
Just a
that's
lot. It's a mouthful, right? ChatGPT.
ChatGPT. Yeah.
ChatGPT.
I want to call it something else.
Yeah.
Egypt or something.
Yeah.
Give it a name. Yeah, DarkBERT rolls off the tongue a little better, but that's not as scary, I guess, as I thought it would be. I read that headline and I was a little wary going.
Yeah, it's a helpful tool.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a helpful tool. So this last one's not anything to do with the dark web, but it is still interesting and still talks about I guess a potential risk, cybersecurity risk. Comes from CloudPro, which actually is an affiliate of ITPro. It looks like, funny enough. Different
ITPro.com.
ITPro.com, yeah. Different ITPro.
Different
Not
ITPro.
Not the same.
Oh, I can't wait till the trial.
Chips are in, like you
That's
said.
right. Listen, Judge, you're going to laugh.
It's a CloudPro/ITPro. We'll get back to you on that.
Yeah.
But the article says, is this new .zip top-level domain a cybersecurity risk? So this is the top-level domain that's like a .com or a .net, right? And so Google introduced a bunch of new ones at the beginning of May, and .zip and I think .mov were two of the ones that are presenting concern.
Yep.
Why is that?
So a few years ago, they opened up the system to introduce new TLDs. And if you were a company that had a ton of money, aka Amazon and Google, you could, I think it was 150 grand or something like that to basically initiate a new top-level domain. And at the time, Google grabbed like 50 or 60 of them.
Whoa.
And Amazon did like another 20. And some of them have already entered general usage, like .museum, .info. Actually, I think .info had been around a little while longer. But there are several other ones like that are just longer than the standard 3 letters that we're used to. .museum pops out of my head.
Yeah.
You see that one around. Well, there were several others that were registered but not opened up to the world yet that just opened up. And some of them have raised some eyebrows, raised some concerns. The one that's probably the most relevant is .zip, Z-I-P. So I could register a domain called, donpazette.zip.
I got it. Don's Hardware.
Don's Hardware. Got to get it right now.
Yeah, you got to get it right now.
.zip. And so
This seems like not good.
it's just a TLD. It's not a big deal, right? But some security researchers are concerned that, hey, that's a standard file extension. When I go online and I download a file and it ends in .zip, I'm expecting a binary that's an archive that contains data, right? Well, if it's a top-level domain and it gains some popularity, people will stop recognizing that as a file extension and just think of it as a domain. And they might not notice when they're going to click on a link that the link is pointed to an archive, a .zip, when they just think it's a domain that they're clicking on. And so the argument is that we shouldn't have TLDs that match file extensions. Like there shouldn't be a .php or .exe, a .com. Oh, wait, already got that one. So I think the
we've been
argument falls
doing this
apart
for a
pretty
while.
quick.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess we don't see binaries end in .com so much anymore. You
We
did
don't
in the
see it because they hide the file extensions in Windows.
Well, that's true too, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. When I first saw the argument of people are going to think this is a file extension, I was like, wait a minute, .com.
Yeah.
Those were executables.
Long before it was ever a URL.
Right.
or
And
TLD.
granted, we don't have .exe, but
Yeah.
if people aren't confusing .com, why is this an issue? So I think it's a non-starter. It's not a big deal. Daniel, opinion?
I feel like here's what's up. Here's what's up. Y'all ready? I'm about to drop some truth all up on y'all.
So
This is going to go.
Everything we do is insecure. Everything we make to make it more secure is also insecure. So we close one door and we open a window, right? It's just, I don't know if you've noticed this as a trend, but it seems to be like, as the Mandalorian would say, this is the way. Right? So cool, we've done this .zip thing because it's going to make these things so much easier. It's going to make life easier for X, Y, or Z reasons. And then someone comes right behind them and goes, no, that's going to be dangerous for X, Y, and Z reasons. And then we weigh the pros and cons based off of whether or not we like the convenience more than we hate the insecurity of it. And then we do said thing, and it just becomes life. And then 10 years from now, we all go, remember when we were all upset about being .zip domains? It was crazy, and everybody threw a fit, and now it's just common life. Listen, typo squatting is already a thing. You just making .zip, in my opinion, in one guy's opinion, I could be completely off base on this. Maybe we'll see massive waves of malware and your grandma's getting her bank account cleaned out by horrible scammers because of this whole .zip thing, right? But I don't know. Last time I checked on these interwebs, yeah, grandmas are still getting cleaned out pretty good.
I was gonna say that's
Right.
if it was gonna happen, it was gonna happen.
Yeah, right. That's what I'm saying, man. So it's like, I'm kind of like on your camp with this, Don. Like it might not be that big of a deal, although everything is already a big deal. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, so they grabbed a quote from security researcher Swift on Security.
Yeah.
And what they were saying was basically like, this just creates unnecessary confusion and it's not needed, so why take the risk, right? But when I look at it, I just see it as, it's such a dumb thing. What does it matter?
Right. Well, I would love to hear, because I didn't get all the way through this article, so maybe they mentioned it and I didn't say. Why coming out with these new TLDs? What was the purpose, especially the .zip and .mov?
Yeah, so the main thing was that it wasn't specifically about like .zip and .mov. It was that .com, .net, .org
is such a filled up space.
They're filled up, and
Yeah.
squatters have taken over a lot of what's available. So it's very hard to find a good domain name these days.
Okay.
And so they wanted to open up some new stuff. Now, country codes have been getting eaten up.
Yeah.
That's why you see .tv
Right,
and,
right.
and those guys, even though, .io is super popular among Silicon Valley.
Yeah.
Well, .io is tied to, what country is it? Shoot.
I don't know.
I should have known that before I started
Honestly,
that
I
argument.
had no idea that was a country that they were.
yeah.
I just thought they had .io.
So I used to get frustrated when people would post bit.ly links. They'd use the
yeah.
bit.ly shortener because .ly is Libya. and
It's Back to the Future. The Libyans.
yeah. So, do you just want to click on some random link, or, it's controlled by a foreign government
Right.
that may not be the most trustworthy. I don't remember who .io
It
is.
says .io is nominally assigned to the British Indian Ocean Territory. So IO, Indian Ocean.
Okay.
There you go.
There you go.
So any tool, the way I was going to say internet, but it's not internet. Who is it? NetSol. Who defines the naming?
Aaron?
Is it Aaron?
Yeah.
That would make sense. Naming is the... Oh, anyhow,
Right.
whoever it is that defines the rules, they basically said 2 letters in a TLD is always a country.
Okay.
So no matter what it looks like, when you see bit.ly and you think it's just funny, there's a country, LY, Technado, Dominican Republic. I went to their website and registered the domain. And that's how those work. So they wanted to open it up, though, to where commercial entities, or really any, I'm doing air quotes here,
Yeah.
anybody with enough cash in their pocket,
Yeah.
could create their own top level domain. And their thought was that Amazon might want to have .amazon,
Right.
because then they could make whatever they wanted and they could own it themselves, not allow other people to get .amazon domains. And so they could put all of their subdomains under that and have their own TLD structure. That was the idea. Well, the companies ran wild with it, and they started picking domains like .zip and .mov and so
So it
on.
was these different organizations that were choosing these extensions
Yes.
for these. Okay. That is
Yep.
where I was kind of missing the boat on that. I would like to pick their brain on, okay, what led you to go, .zip seems good. Let's use .zip. What was the impetus to use my word of the day calendar behind?
For a while there, it was pretty common for companies to use Zip in their name. Like you had ZipRecruiter,
Oh, yeah.
Zipcar, and
So maybe that's just like a holdover from
Zip guns. Zip guns were really popular.
Yeah, big in the 60s.
So, maybe that's what it was. I don't know.
Zip ties.
That .foo just looks so fun.
So
I don't-
foo actually kind of has some like history. With
Does it really?
With the IT world, foo
Yeah.
bar. It comes from foo bar.
Oh, okay.
Right. So you'll always see in like coding examples, foo equals this, then bar equals that. And it's a great way to just use some generic thing. Foo bar
Yeah.
also has something to do.
I was going to say that.
So that's a military. That's FUBAR, not
Gotcha.
FOO.
Different. The spelling's important. It's a
That's-
homophone, I
that's
guess.
different, yes.
Okay. It looked funny. Keep an
Yeah.
eye out for my new website,
Yeah.
SophieGoodwin.foo. I just think that's
Then there's
funny.
then there's the Foo Fighters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. This is kind of. I hear .com, .net, .gov. There's ones that are kind of common for people like me. That it's just I'm not super involved in tech the way that you guys are. So the fact that this isn't even a thing, that they're releasing new ends to URLs, I didn't realize that was something that still was happening. But now that you've explained it, where it's like space is filling up,
Yeah.
it makes sense that you might need to do this at some point.
Now, it used to be like, let's say you came up with an idea for a new company, and you wanted to buy your top level domain, or not top level, but you just wanted to buy a domain name, right? .com would be the first thing you'd go for.
Yeah.
Right. That's
Sure,
where
yeah.
people jump. So you might want to get Sophie.com, and then you'd worry like, what about typo squatters and other people? And so maybe you'd buy Sophie.net, Sophie.org. You'd buy these
Right.
other extensions. Well, or other TLDs. Now there's so many TLDs, it's not even worth doing anymore. Right.
Yeah.
So I think that, you just buy the .com if it's available, and then you start moving
And then, of
down
course,
the line.
like, domain fronting is the thing that hackers used as well, because I'll just go through the CDN, and then all my URLs now come from Amazon. They come from Cloudflare. They come from wherever, because they are basically hosting it.
Yeah.
Huh.
So when people look at the URL and it goes, oh, weird thing, .amazon.co.uk, blah, 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 dot, 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 dot. And then way down the URL is their malware.exe or whatever. It's getting around it anyway. Like I
Yep.
said, I don't think this really is a huge net add to the problem.
Okay. This is just, I feel like there was kind of a common theme, like this appears to be something or a big problem or something. With the KeePass stuff, the DarkBERT, I thought that was going to be like, oh gosh, the dark web. And with this, it seemed like, oh gosh, is this a big deal? And it kind of seems like you guys are saying like, it's not as big of an issue as you might think.
It's the equivalent of clickbait for cybersecurity.
There you go.
Daniel said it right.
Booyah.
Demystifying clickbait,
Yeah.
one Technado at a time. That's
So
great.
the first half of our podcast this week was total screw-ups by hardware manufacturers, and the second half was a waste of time with cybersecurity.
Yeah. Normally is.
You're demystifying the clickbait. That's good.
Demystifying. That sounds better than
It's
total waste of
a
time.
great service
Yeah.
they perform for
I should make an article saying demystifying cybersecurity. Click here to learn more.
Clearing
Number
out the
3 will
You won't
shock
believe, yeah.
You're just clearing out the crap, like a colonoscopy.
That's it.
You're just
Computer users in Florida.
Man.
We do have. I have one more thing, at least that I want to talk about. You're welcome to jump in if you want to, I guess. But if you'd like to.
I'm going to pay attention this time because I messed this up horrible last week.
Oh, did you?
Yeah,
See,
right.
I haven't gotten a chance to watch it yet.
So,
I'm
yeah.
allowing you a little bit for
Well, I didn't. I say I messed it up. I was just like, oh, yeah, we got marketing stuff. Let's talk about that.
Just kind of you improvised. That's all you improvised.
Oh, yeah.
Why not?
Okay, I'll have to go back and watch it so I can make fun of you for it. But Technado is sponsored by. Pay attention. Sponsored by ACI Learning, which
Never heard
the people behind ITPro.
The
So
people
if,
behind our paycheck.
Yeah.
if you're listening,
For at least this week.
I'm never gonna get through this thing. You're making it impossible. If you're listening from the Technado website, you can look for the sponsored by button, and if you click on that, it will take you to the ITPro website, not the one we just got the article from, different website. If you want to support the podcast, check out those courses. You can use the promo code Technado30 and get a discount on an ITPro membership. You'll see our friendly faces there in those courses.
Might want to push them to the careers page as well because there are going to be some openings for too much longer.
Somebody's standing outside the door waiting for us to come out.
Just a minute. We're almost done.
If you want to support us in a different way, you can also watch ACI Learning's webinars and live on social events. We've got one coming up. It'll be the day that this episode comes out, May 25th. That's Thursday at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. Myself and Jerry Osier of Simply Cyber are going to be having a chat about cybersecurity analysts and all things cyber. So it's going to be fun. Not all things. That's Daniel's forte. We're going to cover some cyber things, but it should be fun. It should be a good discussion. We did have an all things cybersecurity webinar last week with Naomi Buckwalter and Daniel Lowry. So if you missed that,
And you.
and me. Well, yeah, I was there. I was present. I enjoyed it. But if you did miss that, you can go back and watch that. That's on their ACI Learning's YouTube and LinkedIn pages. And ACI Learning is also at the Association for Talent Development Conference, the ATD conference this week. They've got some folks out there in San Diego at booth 1918, I think. So if you're there, you can stop by and say hello to the folks that they have out there. I think that's going to do it for me. Daniel was not taking notes, so the next time he has to do this, he's going to horribly butcher it, and I'm going to laugh.
What happened?
Exactly.
Thank you.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching, everyone.
My time is valuable. Thank you. Well, if you guys have nothing else to add on that front, I'm going to go ahead and close it out if that's okay.
No, I did just verify that Technado.zip is available. I might have to
Oh,
read
great.
through that
Okay.
this evening.
Great.
You'll know whether or not
If you
Don
want to be
pulled the
personally
trigger.
victimized by Don Pizzette, you can go to that link.
Build like a Python web scraper and keep checking, see if it's available.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of Technado if you lasted this long. And we'll
God
see
bless you.
and we'll see you next time.